Welcome back to the Tomb of Illumination. The third video started with Enoch's Luminaries. Then I just expanded on it in the previous video, and that's run out, so I still never got to the point I wanted to highlight, and that was talking in depth about the black hole of creation, a bit more concerning what actually it is. And how I've mentioned it's to do with moisture. Our whole realm comes from water. There's the central vortex of creation. So you can imagine rotating water. Energy comes from the water, moving water. Okay, all life, we come from that water. The male entity, the male molecule comes up through the high energized molecule, comes out of the earth and seeks a lower pressure medium through the tropics, comes up through that tropical gap, passes over. When the sun comes along, it gets absorbed through the sun, because the sun, it's a long story in physics and that to do with the water, cold fusion. Now that comes up, and when the sun comes around, because the sun's coming around the celestial tropical gap, it gets drawn into the sun through the Milky Way, back down here to the original, the actual sun, hidden in the Arctic centre. We only see its image out here. And you've got the female coming out of the water region, coming up, going down. There's the counter force coming down through the earth, up and over again. So all this counter movement, male and female, it creates our whole realm. So back here in the centre, you've got the black hole. Imagine that black hole core of vortex water. It's in here, right? So it's all about water. Moisture in the atmosphere, illumination from the sun, atmospheric lensing, it's to do with the water, mirror reflections and everything. So I've talked about that. So I put this, you could say foam, mythological stories that talk about the foam or the mist and that's hidden in there around it. And so you're basically getting a mirror thing. So what comes to mind is basically what they all know in Hollywood or the higher Freemasons is the you can imagine the dome, the sphere, like the orb, mirror on the wall. The orb, remember back in the day, I think it was a witch had the crystal ball, blah 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 blah. So you've got to realise, you see this as some sort of crystal ball, and when in the mythological stories they talk about the crystals and the diamonds, like sapphires and rubies or whatever, it's to do with all the colours in here, the sun and all this water and mirrored effect in here. So then it takes you to the human pineal gland, how that's made up of crystals. So that's our black hole type son of man, is our pineal gland. And there's the son of earth, the sun and the sphere. So you imagine this ball with all this nice sparkling, lights in there or whatever, all comes out of this water hole, vortex, the black hole. And then you've got to realise, well, hello, what did the queen or the king now have in his staff? Oh no, he has the or a separate thing, whatever they call it, but it's the sovereign orb. You've seen the orb, the sovereign orb, the queen's sovereign orb. It's the same thing, it's representing that. So the royal family, they understand all this. So whether they're actually bloodlines from the original enlightened people that become illuminated, I don't know. They seem to have killed a lot off over the years, and maybe they stole it and they don't really understand all this, half their divine symbols. But that's what it all boils down to, okay? That ball, the magical ball of creation, like the silicon chip of our whole realm. So look into the pineal gland, the structure of it. It's made up of crystals. This is the crystal ball. He's the wisest of them all. Wisest, wisdom. It all comes from this divine person's enlightenment, wisdom, understanding the truth and everything about our realm. Okay, that's the Milky Way. If you didn't see the other videos, male side, the female side, understanding how how it's seen in our two hemispheres. That'll come out of the north, centre Arctic, to the sun. You don't see it all during the day, do you? It's only at night you see it. So when you see it in the northern hemisphere, just imagine that end of it goes into the centre north Arctic, into here. And the other end, is heading out to your tropics. How can that be? No, that's not right. That's not right. No, this is coming out of the centre Arctic. That's going to the tropics. Oh, and then you spin it round the other way for the southern hemisphere. You've got to flip it over for the southern hemisphere. So that comes out of the Antarctic, and that's going towards the tropics. So the two male entities in the sun's inner lemma are like this. Both males come together to meet like that. Because you've got to imagine this is the centre Arctic, they're mirrored. You put it straight over like that, flop, plop. Okay? And there's the toes being washed. Jesus washed the feet, you could say. Some stories the toes get cut off. Anyway, that's how you see it on a flat earth. So that cannot happen on a ball, can it? This is southern hemisphere's perspective. We see it like this. The northern people see it like that. They can say the bigger bulge is there because of the equator region, the bigger bulge. But it doesn't work with their tilting business, does it? You put the tilt on there. This is always like this. So the tilting of the seasons, all 100% garbage. Now, there was more I was going to add to this. Can't remember what it was now. But anyway, I'll go on to something else while I'm here. And that is, someone brought up a question regarding what meat you can eat when it comes to Leviticus. So I had to tell him that it's nothing to do with the meat you eat. So I'm going to try and explain it to you, okay? So it's all about this sort of thing here, the alignment. This is the divine alignment through here. But otherwise, it all just warps away from the southern perspective or the northern perspective. And when you look at the stars, they just warp away. They only come to this nice position here, at this location here, at your mountain top, at your mountain, in your hour, divine hour is this alignment up here. When the Milky Way comes around, both Milky Ways come around to meet, because there's a Milky Way in each hemisphere, right? When they come and meet. And the whole book is about all this divine period, because it's to do with this. So let's just read some of this, okay? Leviticus, the third book of Moses, called Leviticus. And the Lord called unto Moses and spoke unto him out of the tabernacle of the congregation, saying, out of the tabernacle that's up in here, it's his conscious state, probably when he's dreaming or something, speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them, if any man of you bring an offering unto the Lord, ye shall bring your offering of the cattle, even of the herd, and of the flock. I've told you in other videos, you've got the northern hemisphere, which is the beast, all the energy. Then you've got the southern field that moves around the central north. And these are all the cattle, because they're all spread out because the energy in here is the same energy as out here in total, but it's widely dispersed and weaker, isn't it? Obviously, tight connection in here. Well, even in this tropical gap here, when it's saying even, when it reaches even point here, when the two, let's just draw it like that, two Milky Ways meet up here, even at that time, because you've got the other field coming through like this. That's even. Okay. Ye shall bring your offering of the cattle, all these cattle out here, even of the herd and of the flock. If his offering be a burnt sacrifice, meaning the two Milky Ways, because there's one in the north, one in the south, they're mirrored. That's where the lining occurs, line up occurs, burnt sacrifice of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish. These are males, the two male ends, see? These two ends meeting. This, mention that's the tropical gap here, and you've got the other Milky Way male part, then it's your sun, then the female. Okay? Without blemish. So this is a healthy man, a divine man, because he has to be divine in that to be a king. And then you go look in the Egyptian mythological stories how they annually the king had to do some physical sort of fitness regime to prove he was fit enough to rule. That's all part of the mythological story. One healthy man comes through here, no blemishes, physically or mentally. He shall offer it to his own voluntary will. See, it's all self-will of the mind. It's up to you to take the right path. Be a flippin' arsehole all your life, or be a decent person. It's voluntary, free will. Be an ignorant moron and just go through recycling for millions of years, or wake the hell up, okay? His own voluntary will at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before the Lord, at the door. And this point here represents that Egyptian door, the false door. It's all about that. It's your door. Entry into the underworld. And he shall put his hand upon the herd of the burnt offering, and it shall be accepted for him to make atonement for him. And he shall kill the bullock before the Lord, and the priests, Aaron's sons, shall bring the blood and sprinkle the blood around about upon the altar, that is by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. You can call that the congregation. That's everything congregates on his arc of horizon, the door, and the blood is the blood. And when it's man's one-off period, you could say, in his lifetime, when something opens in his brain, and that's when the oil gets released and mixes with his blood. This is what the whole story is about: blood, the gory and all. It's just an exaggerated, totally ridiculous story of a terrible death of Christ. Because the man has released a little bit of blood and it mixes with his whole system, floods through his whole system, takes 30 minutes to happen, go down and back up again, and enlighten the Son of Man, his son, up in his head here. And he shall flay the burnt offerings and cut it into his pieces. It flays. So once the alignment, you got this alignment in the hour, then it flays off, moves away. You know, you only get this direct alignment on your meridian dead north, and or in the northern hemisphere dead south. You're looking that way. And the sons of Aaron, the priests, shall put fire upon the altar and lay the wood in order upon the fire. Whenever they mention wood, you've got to think of the neutral. The neutral core is the black hole, the core, all the actions around it. Get your energy around the core. And the priests, Aaron's sons, they've got S-O-N's in the Bible all the time, and really it's referring to S-U-N, shall lay the parts, the head and the fat, in order upon the wood that is on the fire which is upon the altar. It's upon the altar, and what's in your head? It's a big pile of fat called a brain. Inside that fat, it's probably the meat, your centre of your brain, the pineal gland region. And the priests, Aaron's sons, shall lay the parts, the head and the fat, in order upon the wood. But his inwards and his legs shall be washed in water. His inwards and his legs shall be washed in water, and the priest shall burn all on the altar. So it's about water, the energy, bit like you put your foot in water and hold an electrical wire. It's all about that sort of thing. But it's all magnetism, spiritual. He's talking about his feet or legs. Legs are the bottom part of as they approach the tropical gap, all the water that's classed as water in there in the tropical gap. The edge of the stream, the Nile, washing your feet in the Nile and all that sort of stuff. The burnt sacrifice. The burnt sacrifice is the Milky Way, the alignment, made by fire, of a sweet Saviour unto the Lord. And if his offering be of the flocks, namely of the sheep, or of the goats, meaning you're referring to ram, someone born of ram, Aries, or goats, Capricorn, for a burnt sacrifice, he shall bring a male without blemish. That's why you get a lot of the goat heads and rams in Egypt. It's all to do with the cardinal directions. Jesus' story, he was conception is in Aries, March, born about 9 months later, solstice, Capricorn, and he shall kill on it the side of the altar northward. Northwards, there's the alignment, meridian north to south, northward. Northward, so it's always talking about the southern hemisphere. This whole thing must be in reference to the new kingdom. Because the new kingdom is the southern hemisphere. The old kingdom is the original central northern hemisphere. It was once singular. Then it expanded and it gets to a certain point and bang, splits off. Just like the atom molecule in creation, when your baby's being formed. Gets so big then splits off. Well, Earth is split off. And then the tropical gap is the second kingdom, our middle kingdom. Southern hemisphere is a new kingdom. This book is all alluding to a specific event, not what has been, it's what's going to happen and actually has happened. And all shall be cut, where are we? And he shall kill it on the side of the altar northward before the Lord, and the priest Aaron's sons shall sprinkle his blood round about upon the altar. It's the brain here, mate. And he shall cut it into his pieces, split in the four ventricles through his body, with his head and his fat, and the pieces shall lay them in order on the wood that is on the fire which is upon the altar. The wood. Now, in the tabernacle, as the wood goes straight to this is the alignment. This is only one handle. That's a divine story. The wood. and burn it upon the altar. It is a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire of a sweet savour unto the Lord. Doesn't the Bible say somewhere that you must go through fire, or you go through the choke point, which is basically go through the Milky Way? It's all spiritual. You have two parts to your existence, okay? The physical realm down here, which most people can only think about as the physical world, but there's also a non-seen spiritual side to your body. It's doing all this weird stuff in your divine awakening that you know nothing about. It's a subconscious thing. It's happening at night when you're asleep or something. It is weird, really weird. And if the burnt sacrifice for this offering to the Lord be of fowls, then he shall bring his offerings of turtle doves or of young pigeons. So if the offering the Lord be of fowls, I don't know what they mean there, but I'll look into it later. Offerings of turtle doves or of young pigeons. Will involve these birds, because they're both basically precursors or omens to this divine event. Or after it happens, they'll come down and you'll know that you're being protected when you see one of these birds walk with you or whatever. And the priest shall bring it unto the altar and wring off his head. It's all about this, wringing off your head. It's your choke point. Detaching sort of thing. That's when they talk about the head and the neck. And turn it on the altar, and the blood thereof shall be wrung out at the sides of the altar. Turn. Well, it's where the sun is crossing, turning direction, crossing over here. And he shall pluck away his crop, so it's all about early spring, his feathers, and cast it beside the altar on the east part, by the place of the ashes. And he shall cleave it with the wings thereof, but shall not divide it asunder. He's not chopping it in half. Divided it asunder. Shall not divide it asunder. Not exactly know what they're on about just there, but it's all about division here. But he's not chopping it. Nothing gets cut. He doesn't cut his legs off when he's on the cross. Jesus on the cross, right? Because they're telling it it's still flowing. Still keeps flowing. Jesus is the Son. Okay. We've got chapter 2. So we'll move on to this, what I've underlined here. And every oblation of thy meat offering shall thou season with salt. I've told you a lot, mentioned a few times in my videos, you need to have your salts. At this particular time, you've got to be having the healthy salts, sea salt or Himalayan salt, in your diet. You need the salt. It reacts with the system and the moon, the sun. You need that salt. It's the same system as what Earth has with the sea salt, salt in the sea. But it's all to do with fresh water too, pure water, drinking pure water. Always drink the purest of water. Neither shalt thou suffer the salt of the covenant of thy Lord to be lacking from thy meat offering. So you have to have the meat in your system. With all thine offerings thou shalt offer salt. Okay? And if thou offer a meat offering of thy first fruits unto the Lord, thou shalt offer the meat offering of thy first fruits, green ears of corn dried by the fire, even corn beaten out of full ears. it's all allegory, okay? But anyway, a lot of, when it comes to ears and ringing, ear rings, is to do with the ringing in your ears. You know, when if you've got the ears to hear, let him hear. So when he's heading in the right direction, he might get a louder ringing in his ears, maybe. And thou shalt put oil upon it, and lay frankincense thereon. It is a meat offering. So the oil is released through the body, from the brain, the pineal gland, or pituitary gland, or something, but that gets mixed with the blood in the system, ignites its enlightenment. And the priest shall burn the memorial of it, part of the beaten corn thereof, beaten corn, and part of the oil thereof, and with all the frankincense thereof. It is an offering made by fire unto the Lord. To get to me is to... We'll leave it at that. So in John it says, to get to the Father you go through me. There's the Father. You have to go through the Son. Go through Christ. Go through Christ to get to the Father. The Holy of Holies. To become God-like. Okay? It all happens 5 holy days. Only happens in 5 holy days. And the most divine is the full moon in your sign at this point. Doesn't happen all the time, does it? Most divine one was Pisces. Full moon in Pisces. It's all about the fishes. Okay, we'll leave it at that, shall we? Okay guys, if you like my videos, don't forget to put a likes up to get it out there, because YouTube's really shutting me down. Yeah, and subscribe. Just make sure everyone's putting a like up. Get it out. I can expand on this stuff if everyone's getting to hear about it. If YouTube's just crushing it, it's not getting out. It becomes, I just think it's not worth doing. No one's getting to know about it. And not to concentrate on putting it all into books or pamphlets or whatever. Okay, thanks guys. I can break down the whole Bible if you want me to, but it all takes time. And I'm trying to start a Patreon page so people can help me. I haven't earned $1, and I can't even figure that stuff out because this tech stuff and computers. I know nothing about computers. Okay.